Hello dear students, welcome to IAS Viewpoint, the point of success. Today's topic is Preamble. The session plan of the topic Preamble is as given. First, let us look at the introduction part of the concept Preamble. Then we shall see what are the types of preamble existing across the globe. Then we move on to the scholarly opinion of various scholars. Then let us understand objective resolution passed by Nehru, and how is that related to preamble? What is the significance of objective resolution regarding preamble? Then we shall understand what exactly is our Indian preamble, essential elements of preamble. We shall try and look at each concept given in preamble, each word given in preamble in detail, especially the words sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic, justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity in a very particular way. Then we shall try and conclude by understanding whether preamble is part of the constitution or not. If it is part of the constitution, can we amend the preamble or not? If we can amend, can we amend the full preamble or certain parts of the preamble, and then conclude. If we look at the origin of the word preamble, we can see that it has originated from the Latin word preambulus. What does preambulus mean? It means walking before. Prior means before. Ambular means to walk. In English we have a word called amble, which means walking gently. For example, if you make a statement, yesterday Khan and Katrina ambled along the river bank. What does it mean? Those two guys walked leisurely on the banks of that river, walked very coolly, very gently on the banks of river. Let's say, for example, we have a dignitary coming here for an inauguration session or inauguration of a certain building. Let's say, for example, the dignitaries either are Prime Minister or the President. If that person, the dignitary arrives, do you think that he comes alone? There is a convoy which comes before the dignitary. And when that moment comes, when he wants to reach the place where he wants to inaugurate, there are few people who walk before him, before this important dignitary reaches that point. Why do we find these people walking before this dignitary? Because they clear the way, they make the way smooth, so that the dignitary come and carry out his function very smoothly. How is this connected to the preamble? See, preamble is nothing but it is something which walks before the constitution. It smoothens the flow of thought of the supreme law, the constitution. It clears the way for the arrival of the constitution. That's why we said in the beginning, preamble means which walks before. So preamble is an introductory part of the constitution. That is in the right frame of thought, mind, tone and atmosphere. It creates the right atmosphere for the arrival of the constitution. There is the right tone and tenor set for the constitution to speak. Right? And we have different words with meaning more or less the same, whether we call it introduction, prologue, prelude, preface, preliminary statement, or foreword, beginning, exordium, or preface, whatever may be the word it is used, it all reflects some kind of introduction or some kind of preamble. In essence, preamble means introduction. More or less, all these words indicate the same meaning. What is the significance of preamble? Whether we look at Plato's law or common law or modern legal systems, we understand preamble played, or rather has been playing a very significant role, especially in lawmaking, in decision making, and in policy making. Whenever legislators want to make laws, whenever the executive or the people appointed with the responsibility make policies or rules and regulations which govern the public, they have to be governed by the spirit of the preamble. Preamble expresses the purpose and the spirit of the Constitution. In fact, that, let's say, if Constitution is the body and a preamble is the mind, preamble is the spirit, preamble is the soul which expresses, which manifests the Constitution. And if we look at different preambles across the globe, we see differently framed. However, they all express the same meaning, that is portraying or giving light on the Constitution. Let's look at Japan's preamble. It starts and it says, "Never again shall we be visited with the horrors of war, with the action of government, and desire peace for all time, and are deeply conscious of the high ideals controlling human relationships." Here they want to try and express their purpose. What is the purpose of Japan's Constitution? Primarily, they focus on peaceful growth. They want to be away from war. They want to grow economically, and they want to grow the human resources, being away from conflict and war. That is the purpose contained in the preamble. So if we look at different preambles, we observe various emphasis, various focuses given. Each preamble focuses or reflects the history of the country and the growth of the country and how it should grow in the next couple of centuries, right? And it is addressed differently in different countries. In most of the countries, preamble is addressed as preamble. In some countries, for example, in countries like Japan, preamble is addressed as preface. In Bahrain, it is addressed as foreword. Whether they address it as preface or preamble or foreword, it is nothing but an introduction to the Constitution. What are the types of preambles we have? If we observe various constitutions and various preambles, we find symbolic or ceremonial preamble, interpretive preamble, and substantive preamble. See, all these three, they are not mutually exclusive. They are in fact interdependent. Or see, some features of symbolic preamble, some features of interpretive preamble can coexist. Now, what is symbolic preamble? Symbolic preamble is nothing but it's like how we have a president in our Indian system. We call a president as a symbolic figure, a ceremonial figure. However, at times the president of India plays a vital role, a key role in certain circumstances. So also the symbolic preamble plays important role at times. Interpretive, that means most of the Constitution is interpreted in the light of preamble. Preamble throws light on Constitution. And substantive is it is the essence, the rights, limitations are drawn from substantive preamble. Symbolic or ceremonial preamble. It was well elaborated in Plato's The Laws. The Laws is a wonderful thesis by Plato, one of the longest works and one of the last works of Plato, The Laws. In that book, that thesis, Plato says, preamble should convince people that the laws are morally good. Those laws which were made are morally good and they're good for the society. He considers preamble as the soul of the law. He gives an example of a doctor and legislator. He considers the person who legislates the laws as the doctor, and he attributes the law as prescription. Who prescribes a medicine? Doctor. Who legislates a laws? Legislator. But what does doctor do? He explains the patient the necessity of taking the medicine, the importance of taking the medicine, the importance of the situation in which the patient is. So also preamble should do that function. The preamble should explain the citizen the significance of the law. It is like the importance of following the law, necessity of following the law, the significance of law. All these are explained through preamble as the doctor explains the patient about the prescription. See, force with persuasion. The law without persuasion becomes a dictatorial one. It becomes tyrannic. If law is followed by persuasion, it becomes a wonderful law. For that, preamble is required. Preamble does the job of persuasion, right? This is a kind of ceremonial preamble given by Plato and throwing light about the laws to the citizens. Next, interpretive preamble. Edward Cook, English jurist, he says, preamble is a good means to find out the meaning of a statute, key to open understanding, key to the statute, key to the makers of the constitution or the makers of the law. What does it mean? If we don't have the key, it is very difficult to see what is there in the room. So also, preamble is so important to understand what is there in the Constitution. That's the opinion of Edward Cook, English jurist, and interpretive preamble is something of this sort. It helps to understand the Constitution. William Blackstone is another English jurist. He says, preamble is intended to help the construction of an act of parliament. So, if the parliament is legislating a law, preamble helps these legislators to construct this legislation in a very proper, suitable way. Whenever the statute is dubious, preamble helps. This is very important. Even nowadays, in almost all the countries, they fall back on preamble. If there is ambiguity in law, or if there is ambiguity in certain section of the Constitution, preamble helps. That's the opinion of William Blackstone, English jurist. And remember, when several interpretations exist, courts prefer the option which is consonant with the preamble. If in a country, courts fall back on preamble when there are different explanations or different understandings for a particular article or a particular section of the Constitution, we say that that preamble is interpretive preamble. This is very, very important. The option which is consonant with the preamble, the option which is close to the preamble. If all the options are somewhat similar, somewhat in line with or in agreement with the preamble, which is very much close to the preamble, is taken by the honorable courts. Substantive preamble. Our Indian preamble is more of a symbolic, ceremonial, as well as interpretive preamble. Ours is not a substantive preamble. At times it works as substantive preamble in rare situations. What is substantive preamble? It's independent source for rights. If it is a substantive preamble, laws can be made based on the preamble. Preamble gives the power or gives rights, gives the limitations. The original powers can be drawn from the preamble. For example, the French Constitution, based on the principles enshrined in the preamble, it has granted independence to most of the overseas territories. That's what is called substantive preamble. Carl Schmitt, German jurist, talks about constitutional theory. And in that theory, he speaks about fundamental political decisions. Fundamental political decisions are very important. Rather, the constitution is made up of these fundamental political decisions. And all the laws which are made, these laws which are made based on this constitution, they govern the behavior and set of norms. For example, he makes the difference between the constitutional laws and the constitution. Constitution is the essence of these fundamental political decisions. Based on that, constitutional laws are made. Okay, what are those laws? Those laws are the provisions that govern the behavior of the public, right? These fundamental political decisions are prerequisite. They are prerequisite of all subsequent norms. All the norms which are followed, all these norms are derived from these fundamental political decisions. What Carl Schmitt says is, whether these may or may not appear in the constitution, but definitely appear in the preamble. What does it mean? The preamble expresses the fundamental political decisions which are the essence of the constitution. This is a wonderful point which you can utilize it in your mains. Now let's see what our Indian jurists have talked about preamble. Sir Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, a member of the Constituent Assembly, who was member of the drafting committee as well, he says the preamble to our constitution expresses what we had thought or dreamt so long. Statement is very clear. M. Hidayatullah, a former Chief Justice of India, says it is the soul of our constitution which lays down the pattern of a political society. It contains a solemn resolve which nothing but a revolution can alter. See, these decisions made in the preamble are very solemn. So what is solemnity? Solemnity is a great festival. It's not a simple festival. It's not a small ordinary event. A great event, a mighty event. See, these decisions made in preamble are really festivities, a mighty, powerful, strong decisions. We cannot simply just alter as and when we want. A great revolution has to come to change. What does it mean? That means really a well thought out decision has to be made before we touch upon those preambles. N.A. Palkiwala, a very noted jurist, he says preamble is the identity card of the constitution. We know what is the importance of identity card. Next, K.M. Munshi, he was also one of the drafting committee members. He says preamble is the political horoscope of the Indian constitution. It really talks about how the India is going to be for the next couple of decades or centuries. It's a political horoscope. Thakurdas Bhargav, he was also one of the members of the Constituent Assembly. He says preamble is the soul of the constitution. It's a kind of a replica of what Plato had talked about. Then remember, Government of India Act 19 1919 had preamble, if you really observe. Of course, Government of India Act 1935 did not have the preamble, but 1919 had a separate preamble. Please refer the documents. What is objective resolution passed by Jawaharlal Nehru? See, on 8th August 1940, Viceroy Lord Linlithgow gave us August offer. It is this August offer consists of number of offers, a number of parts. One of the parts is framing of constitution. Indians' right to frame their own, or our own right to form our own constitution. The part of this offer affected the formation of Constituent Assembly. Based on this, Constituent Assembly was formed to make the Constitution on 6th December 1946. For the first time, this Constituent Assembly met on 9th December. Objective resolution was presented by Nehru on 13th December. After that, it was discussed by the members for a number of days, and at the end, on 22nd of January 1947, a resolution was adopted. If we observe the present preamble, we find that the spirit and the language of the resolution was followed to maximum extent possible. In fact, the preamble is, to certain extent, we can say, the replica of the objective resolutions, not word to word, but the spirit, the law and the spirit is seen in preamble. There are some changes made to the preamble. For example, in the original objective resolution, it was independent democratic republic, but our framers made it sovereign democratic republic. In fact, introduction of the word fraternity by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar with so much emphasis can be seen in our preamble. These are some of the changes to the objective resolution. Otherwise, as some of the scholars would say, it is more or less most of it is taken from objective resolution. The first preamble can be seen in American Constitution. It was one of the first constitutions to be followed, the concept of preamble. If we observe, the American Constitution also begins like our Indian Constitution. Rather, we can say our Indian preamble begins like the American Constitution, or the preamble like we, the people of the United States of America. And then the Constitution of Swiss Confederation's preamble begins with the statement, "In the name of Almighty God, the people." Why I have quoted this is, see, different countries' preamble began differently, but the essence remains the same. Some people, most of the people, start their preamble with "We, the people of Philippines, the United States of America, or India," etc. But some people start differently as well. Indian preamble. "We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution." Beautiful preamble, a wonderful preamble, the essence of the Constitution portrayed in this preamble.